Hello, everybody, but in particular, hello to Prince Harry. I hope I may be able to call you Harry, as you've opened up and reached out to an amazing amount of people. And I noticed from the news this morning, a psychiatrist says that you've done more in 25 minutes than he has done in 25 years. Well, I'd like to send you a message of thanks from myself. I'm a farmer. I'm down in Sussex. I produce linseed oil, which is a lipid, a fat. And my journey with linseed has given me a great deal of understanding about fats. Harry, I guess maybe you have admitted 20 years of difficulty, and probably during those 20 years you were eating comfort food and drinking lots of sugary drinks and so on, and your comfort food would have had in it addictive fats, and none of those things would have been very good for your brain, which is 60% fat, and you need to kind of feed that properly. So during your most vulnerable time you were cut adrift, and you hadn't really, I think, come to terms with that, and therefore you were drinking and eating that food that was prolonging the problem. I've actually been very interested in mental health for a long time, and as you know, farmers are suffering from that kind of thing, and also we hear, young men, it's the biggest cause of death, up to sort of 45 or 50 or so, they kill themselves. I just want to get through to everybody, and you in particular, because you are in a position of influence unlike almost any other person. I mean, my last about 6 months I've been live streaming about mental health and so on. I've had some feedback from it, which is really great, but I'd like to get it to a much wider audience. And my last one the other day was about mental health of young people. Teachers are identifying increasing numbers of young people with mental health problems, yet what we continually see is food served to them with abused fats that don't do the job they're supposed to do in the body, whether it's to oxygenate it or to feed its brain, so your cells are able to work and do the job they're meant to do, which is communicate. The example, of course, Harry, is if you stub your toe, your brain knows you've done it immediately, and that's what we want with all other aspects of life. If you come into difficult situations, you want your brain to work properly and help you to make the right decision to come to terms with whatever is happening at that particular time. Harry, I hope you'll see this, and if you do see this, I hope you'll respond to it. Because I'd really love to have a little bit more of a talk to you about fat and mental health, because I think between us we could do a lot more good. And there's no doubt that damaged fats are really, really big in the environment, and often people don't know where they come from because labels don't in any way help you to understand what's in the food and how that can be important for you. I've got a bit of a hinterland. I'm a kind of a food campaigner, and I'm a member of the director of the Brighton and Hove Food Partnership, and I'm also on the steering committee of the Brighton and Sussex University Food Network, and I've given several talks at the Real Farming Conference in Oxford over the last few years. And this year I was talking with Richard Young about understanding fats. We had to close the door because so many people wanted to come and listen to what we had to say. And Richard was brilliant. He talked about saturated fats and getting our fat from grass instead of from rainforests. And hopefully that's something that I'd like to talk to you about a little bit more, because how we can maybe get through to many more younger people might be to get them to look at the food. And for instance, from the rainforest point of view, if they see palm oil in a product, when they eat that, they're killing partly killing an orangutan, and also helping to destroy the climate with burning of rainforests. Also, if that product has soya in, it's the same root. Soya is grown and it's fed to animals and things like that. And it shouldn't be. Animals should graze and be fattened off pasture. And I'm a member of the Pasture-Fed Livestock Association as well. And we're all dedicated not only to feeding animals the proper way, but also looking after the pastures and the grasses to ensure that they feed the animals properly, but also are able to sequester carbon and help to prevent flooding, because well-managed pastures can absorb more water. There's quite a lot in this area, and many farmers are now coming to the Real Farming Conference in Oxford, something like 850 every year. We're so big now we have to take on the whole of the Oxford Town Hall in order to accommodate us. And the conventional farming conference, I think, has about 300 delegates. So you can see there's a great interest in preserving the soil, and our champion, Colin Tudge, this year has talked about us. Let's not talk about the environment, let's talk about the biosphere. And that's where I'll ask for your help as well, Harry, because you are now a key person of influence. So not only have you had this experience yourself and been able to come to terms with it, but when you tell people about it, what you're actually doing is giving them permission to open up and talk about it themselves. And if there is one thing that you've really done, that might be the most significant factor. You've given them permission to open up and tell people about how they feel. But I would like you to open up and maybe have a conversation with me. I've got a little museum about linseed and flax, and I use that to tell this story about fats from really ancient times to the modern day. So I think I'm a heart-centered farmer, Harry, and I want to help the world to understand a little bit more about mental health, and I think you're in a good position to help convey the message that mental health is not only about how you're feeling and so on, but it's how you're feeding your brain all the time. It might be, in fact, the most basic thing. We've spent 60 years of putting margarines and cooking in oil that damages it in all sorts of different ways. And there's now increasing science that shows that heating oil is a very dangerous thing to do. So, Harry, I hope you'll see this, and all of you people on Heads Together. And thank you, Briony, for being able to speak to Harry about this. You've both done brilliant jobs, but I'd like to see Heads Together maybe having a conversation with myself as well. Let's talk about the food on Heads Together. I've sort of trawled a little bit through the Heads Together site and the partners. I can't see anything very much about diet. I know it's contentious, but if you think in the last 50 or 60 years, the incidence of mental health mental health problems have gone up such a lot that it must point to something dramatic, some dramatic change in how we eat and prepare and consume the food. And the most dramatic change is going from cooking in lard and dripping to cooking in oil. So that's where I'm going to stop today, but I hope to have some feedback on this one, and look forward to talking to you again a bit more on the mental health issues of people and younger people as well. Thank you so much.